Three, two, one. What's happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from here, the Spirit, presented to you by NoleGameDay.com. You're here live on a wonderful, fantastic Wednesday evening. And man, oh man, oh man, we're loading with guests this offseason, and we've got a major one with us this Wednesday. We've got former Nole star linebacker Kalen DeLoach with us this evening. Just got out of Indy. He's going to give us a rundown on that. We're going to talk 2023 football season, his career, bringing Florida State back to where it needs to be, Mike Norvell, and a handful of other things. But Kalen, welcome to Hear the Spear. Super stoked to have you on here with us this evening.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Glad to be here, man. Glad to be here.
With us down below also is Austin Veazey, our lead basketball writer. He's hurting right now. Not a fun game last night. Late one too, so
we'll get it back Saturday. I'm not worried.
Yeah, have a lot of hope. But then down below is to our editor-in-chief, Delo, Dustin Lewis. Gentlemen, how y'all doing down below?
Doing great. Excited to have Kalen on tonight to talk about his time at the Combine and obviously a great career at Florida State.
Yeah, this should be a fun one. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. But let's jump into it. Before I get started, though, as always, you can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. If you're on YouTube right now, hit the like button. We've got Delo on here, so if you've ever had a question you wanted to ask him, throw it in the chat, and I'll bring it up, and I'll forward this over to Kalen, and he can give you an answer. But, make sure you're subscribed so you get notified every time we release a new episode. Delo, man, let's just jump into the most recent events that you were just up there in the NFL Combine. How was that experience, man? Just getting that invite and going through the process of interviewing, talking with some teams and such.
I said it was a good process. Got to see all my boys there. All of us was there at the same time. So just to see them again, they put a smile on my face. And then just going throughout the process, definitely a dream. And then you actually get to go through it and live. You actually talking to the coach, who has, who potentially could draft you. So, you don't want to say anything wrong or mess up on any little thing. So I feel like just locking in on the process and just, take it for what it is, enjoy it. Because like I said, it was definitely a dream, and just to actually live it and go out there to do it with, 11 other guys. It felt like home.
You obviously had an impressive performance out there in Indy. Running a sub 4.5 40-yard dash. Were you expecting to hit that time going into the week?
To be honest, I had my mindset as soon as I started training, my coach asked me, what did I want to run? I told him 4.3, 4.4. But, throughout the whole training process, I never clocked the 4.4. So, definitely was on my mind to go out there and, run my best, run my hardest because I know the 4.4 looked way better than the 4.5. So, I was just going out there, just taking what coach taught me throughout the whole training process and just go out there and applying it.
You were telling us a little bit before the show that you were meeting with teams at the East West Shrine Bowl more than you were the Combine. How has that process been like, interviewing with all these other teams?
I say interview with the teams. It was good because they want to know more about you, understand your background and where you come from. So basically, just give them all that rundown of who I am. Making sure they draft the right person. So I just wanted to go out there and speak highly of myself because it is a business and you got to promote yourself in this business. So. Just making sure I promote myself the right way, make sure I say everything. Just to get to see those coaches in real life, it definitely means a lot to me because coming from Savannah, you don't get to see that as much. So just be a kid from Savannah, take advantage of the opportunity and talking to just about all the coaches. So, I'm definitely remember that one.
I had to ask in the production meeting if you had talked with the Steelers, but can you give us a handful of some teams that you've talked to throughout this process, throughout the, you leaving the Orange Bowl and then going forward?
Yeah, I talked to Pittsburgh. I talked to the Jaguars, the Vikings, 49ers, the Chargers. I talked to the Ravens as well. So it's a whole bunch of teams.
Yeah, Tampa also got included in there.
Yes,
yeah, and there's a question here too asking, who did you work with for your speed development for when you were running in that 40 and also too on your on-field drills?
I went to Exos in Pensacola, so we got his coach named Coach Anthony, and then with my position drills, it was a old guy named Doug. So Doug, he did coach. He was at one point the head coach of the Rutgers. And then, he went to the NFL and things like that. And then now he decided, train guys like us and get ready for the Combine. He had us on the board, making sure we remember all the plays, doing like all the taking us through the media, like questions they could possibly ask you because he done been through it. So he's trying to give us everything we need to know to make sure we're prepared.
Speaking of questions from the media, it seemed like there was a lot of, like, during the media interview portion of it, there were some weird questions getting thrown out there. Like, I watched Keon's interview, and they asked him if he thought airplanes were real. So just during this whole process, whether it was from the media or maybe from teams, did you get any, questions that just threw you for a loop?
Not no really off the wall questions. Nothing like, I didn't get nothing asked too crazy. It was more so, about Florida State, the time that I had there.
We were talking with Fabo too, Jarian as well, and you know how Jarian is. He likes to talk, and he's awesome. That's why we love having him on. But he was saying he was going to run that 4.3 range. Do you expect him to run in that 4.3 from Jarian?
It definitely surprised me, but then again, when I seen it, I kind of expected it because he got some wheels on him. Most people don't know that, but he definitely got some wheels to him. And when he ran the 4.3, we got a group chat together, so all of us I texted him like, you don't need to run no more. Like, just go ahead and take your cleats off, get ready for position trials. Because that set the tone, too, with him running 4.3. It definitely surprised a lot of people because, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, him and Braden Fisk, man. I mean, you saw it. You saw, I mean, you see him racing Mike Norvell at practices and such, but then you also saw it in the Clemson game, too. We'll talk about that specifically in that play, but he was running stride with you. Down the field when y'all were at Clemson during that play.
A lot of people there was surprised when he ran that foot. Like, I was in the lobby watching her run, so like it popped up on TV. A lot of people were surprised. I'm like, this why y'all didn't want.
We lost him. Someone might have called him. Wait, we're back. We got you back. You're good.
You heard what I say?
Yep, I think so. Cut off just for a second. You're almost done though. Keep going.
Oh yeah, like when I was in the lobby, so like everybody just got guys from different schools, and then he ran that 4.7. I'm like, this is exactly why they didn't want to see us in the playoffs, man. We had too many weapons out there.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, and not just Jarian, Braden, and yourself, but I mean a ton of former Noles had really good performances at the combine, and I mean Florida State was really the talk of it for a couple of days there. So what was it like just to see, so many of your former teammates having success?
They put a smile on my face because I know what they've been through and how hard they worked to get here. Because when they came to Florida State, we all had that goal to was like we were going to win the national championship, and then we were going to go to the NFL. So just to have those type of guys in your corner to where you could text them for any little thing. Like I was texting the group chat trying to get better on my get off for the 40. Everybody just sending little tips of what I can work on. So just to have that brotherhood on and off the field to be able to connect like to now, it's gonna keep going, but. Just to have those people like that, tell you when you're doing good and when you're doing bad, and also being able to showcase, where we come from. The guys who we got to do it with. You see, all 12 of us, showcase. We had to put on for the Seminole logo, so that's what we want to do the most.
There was a lot of love shown towards Coach Storms too, man.
Sir.
Tour of duty is no joke. We'll actually be able to go there on Thursday morning, bright and early. I'm not going. I'm not getting up that early, but Dustin's got to go tomorrow morning.
It's
only a couple hours away.
Yeah, but tell us about tour duty and how that, and not just tour duty, but also to how y'all run practices. It is nonstop, go.
So basically, tour duty is probably the hardest workout we have, other than summer workouts, because it's winter workouts. You high speed pace for a whole hour. And, folks out there getting tired, and you just got to lock in. It's really mentally, you mentally got to be prepared because he's gonna try to break you. He's trying to see, how far he could take it, and then he wants what's best for you. Because in the game, it might get hard and frustrating. So he want to be already develop that into you, and then who you are. So like when it's time to game, it's time to showcase who you are. And like I said, it's probably the hardest one because you got coaches yelling at you. You don't really get that much of a break. And then you got to go to the next drill. And then you got somebody who may be lagging behind who you got to, bring forward with you. So I feel like, just having those good group of guys, good group of leaders that, my last couple of years, it wasn't all put on me. I had guys who, bring other people along. And I feel like that's what made one part of the reason why we were undefeated. And then you go into spring practice, you competing. Because we know at the end of the day where we're trying to go and how we're going to get there. We got to go out there and be our best. And if we push each other to be our best each and every day, we're going to come out to good results. And that's all we wanted was good results.
And you got good results these last 2 years. 23-4, obviously winning the ACC championship. And now as you move on to the NFL, Florida State squarely back in the conversation to be at the top of college football. But I mean, there were some struggles throughout the last couple of years, you know, the 3-6 record in 2020 and the 0-4 start in 2021. Can you pinpoint a moment where it all kind of started to turn around and become what it is now?
I really feel like we bought in towards the end of the 5 and 7 season. Because you know a lot of games was close, so we knew at the end of the day what we were capable of, and you know we knew how it needed to look and what it took, you know, to finish games. So just going in and focusing on finishing games, how can we finish games better? And, you know, how can we put ourselves in the best position to win? So just go out there, like I said, compete. We go out there, compete each and every day, making sure we are our best when it's time. And like you say, it hasn't always been good. And then, you know, people bought in. The buy-in, you know, from the day one. I think when Coach Novell got there, you know, you see the changes and you see, you know, the standard that he's trying to operate. So it's either you get along with it or you know, you get missing. So just to, you know, going there we'll finish my career out with you know, a good head coach who believed in all of us, you know, and put us in the best position possible. You know, it's definitely a grind.
What can you tell us about Mike Norvell, and what have, you know, if you've seen him change any? We've had on a lot of former Knowles, and, you know, I said he sticks with the same energy every day, but what did you sense in this team last year? Maybe was it in the off season, and just as the coaching staff, what do you feel from this team? Was there some kind of enrollment that you would have this chance of making that ACC championship, going undefeated, 13-0?
I say I really felt it because when Coach put it with this past season, he had more of a player-led team. So just us as older guys, you know, getting the young guys around. Like we go out to dinner, we go bowling, we do all the little things off the field, and you know, I feel like that helped us connect on the field because, you know, I've been with these guys probably 4 years. So just 4 years of chemistry, 4 years of doing the same thing. Then you bring the others along who've been there 2 years. You know, they just enjoying the process too because, you know, you at Florida State, it don't get no better than this. So just like I say, he a great coach. You know, from the same energy every day. You see, he gonna race every day. Somebody he gonna race every day, and then he just wants what's best for you. He gonna push you. Like I say, he gonna push you to be your best each and every day. He never gonna let you, you know, take no days off because at the end of the day, it's your goals, and he's there to help us get to our goals.
What were some of those conversations like with you and Coach Norvell when you first came in? Because you were recruited under Coach Taggart, and then Norvell comes in. What were some of those first conversations like?
I say for me, it was definitely an adjustment I had to make. Because two different coaches. Just like I say, had to get used to his standard. You know, some days it wasn't always my best days, but you know, we talked, and you know, he believed in me. So, you know, I stuck it through the whole process, and you know, now I see why he did believe in me because you know, he wanted what was best for me. He put me in the best position I could be. So, just to go out there every day, I still be reminiscing sometimes.
I wanted to ask about Coach Shannon, you know, because you have multiple linebacker coaches during your career at Florida State, but were able to play the last 2 years under him, and obviously a veteran coach, someone who's coached at, you know, multiple programs in the state of Florida. What was it like with him coming in, and I guess how was it different maybe from playing under Coach Marv?
I say with Coach Shannon, you know, he comes with a lot of experience. You know, he didn't coach Miami when they won the national championship. He didn't coach in the NFL, and he was also a head coach at one point in time. So he definitely has he has gems that, you know, I took to apply to myself. He's I wouldn't say he's laid back, but at sometimes, you know, he he could he'll be quiet, and then when you do something wrong, that's when he'll get on you about it, and then he'll go off. But you know, I enjoy Coach Shannon because, like I said, I got to learn a lot from him. You know, he's been seeing tendencies and schemes throughout his whole life. So just to take any little tip that he could give to me and just apply it to my game.
I wanted to ask you, there's a question here too, can help lead into this from Detroit Red on Twitter, but we saw your leadership grow quite a bit. And I don't know, you can maybe confirm this with us. Maybe we did an interview a little while back with you after practice, but I don't feel like you were the biggest talker for the most part. It's more on the field, show it kind of deal. And you grew your respect by that from your teammates, but you started becoming a lot more vocal throughout your last season, maybe even the year before. Where did that begin, and when did you see that, hey, I need to be, more on the vocal side than anything? And did any of the coaches, talk with you and want to see you kind of be that person, be that player, be that teammate for the rest of the team?
Yeah, well, I just say like my position, basically, we got to be vocal. We got to be leaders on and off the field. So and then the guys that came in respect my play. So just to go out there, and make sure we in the best position possible. I said over the years, it definitely helped me because I got more comfortable with the guys. I got to see the guys work, and I also know like what standard we want to be. So just that also helps, understanding what we want and how we want things done, and then just being that older guy who's been there and have been through most of the experience that most of the young guys gonna go through, and just to be that older guy, you tell them you're gonna be good because I've been through the same thing. So, this over time, I feel like, they gained I gained their respect, and was able to step up and be more vocal throughout times.
You hadn't beat Clemson in your college career until September. And then you guys go into Death Valley and come back from a 10-0 and a 17-7 deficit to obviously win that in overtime. Can you just talk about finally beating Clemson at Florida State? And then also we've got to ask about the play that's going to go down in Florida State history.
I got to put that show us that again. That's an awesome blow up.
I had to get that frame after the Clemson game. But I just say this, like going into Clemson, it's gonna be a hostile environment because it's nothing but orange and white in there. So, and we got the little section of garnet and gold. But just to go in there, I haven't beat them. So just to go in there for my last year at their place, just to do that, it definitely means a lot. Because in the middle of the field after the game, you can see me hugging Fabo and JB. Yeah. And because it took us a lot of hard work and a lot of time put in, just to go out there and do that. Because I don't think Clemson has been beaten home in 7 years, I think. Mm-hmm. So just to go out there, and showcase, what type of team we are, that we overcome anything, no matter the circumstances, we built for it, and we can continue to fight for 60 minutes. And if it takes more, we're ready for that too.
While we're speaking of rivals, is there a team you don't like more, Florida or Miami?
I say more so Florida. It's just that when I go down there, I just get a different vibe. See, Miami is cool, but they not like Florida. Florida is just different because the stadium and everything, the people, like you could tell the hatred between them two. Like it's real. And then it's only 2 hours away, so like,
yeah.
For me, I feel like it's Florida.
Yeah. Going back to that Clemson game, though, can you take us through that play, though, take us through just the whole thing, running into the play, what Adam Fuller drew up for that, what he saw, and then also just take us through the play throughout.
So before that play, they had like a long run that got them, that flipped the field to like they side of the field. So from there, as a defense, we had to lock in. Because we didn't want them to go score. And, in our mindset, it's going to be hard for them to get in the end zone. So when Coach Fuller gave the play, it got to Tatum. And then Tatum, the blitz was actually supposed to come from the boundary side. At the last minute, Tatum flipped it to the field side because he felt like they knew that we were going to blitz from the boundary. So he flipped it last minute. And then from there, I looked at the safety and I just took off because he communicated that with me too. So from there, I just took off, and then I seen Tatum. He blitzed, and he took over the guard. And then I seen my end just jet up field. And then from there, the hole just got, like, big. So I dug my cleats in the ground, and I went over there, and I hit him.
How'd that feel? That feel? Be honest. How'd that feel?
It felt good. To be honest, I wasn't even aiming for the ball. I tried to, put him out for the game. But good thing I did hit the ball because it was a good play. As you see, I rolled over the fist. I thought Fitz was going to grab it, but I seen Fitz, he tapped it to me. So from there, when the ball got in my hands, I was just turn around and run. Let's go get in the end zone.
Did it feel like it was happening in slow motion? Because it felt like it was happening in slow motion from the press box. Because all three of us were there.
It definitely felt like it was slow motion. It's like when I got the ball in my hands, it's like I'm really about to go score. I couldn't believe it. Then you just see it get real quiet and then you just see the Florida State section going crazy. I'm like, wow, I really just did that.
So going to Braden, did you talk to him? Did he actually mean to flip it to you?
I don't think he mean to flip it, but it was a good thing he did flip it. Either way, I feel like we still would have we still would have gotten the end zone no matter who picked it up. But I'm just glad I was able to finish off the play and then with the ball in my hands.
Yeah, there was a lot of jokes the next week, and now seeing Braden run that 40, you think he would have been able to return it if he would have got it?
Oh yeah, easy. I don't think nobody would catch him either.
Y'all had a handful of blockers too, man. I mean, everybody was hauling ass.
Wall, it wasn't no getting through that. We were gonna get to that end zone one way or another.
Do y'all run? I mean, we see it in practice, and maybe it's done a little bit, but y'all go through practice and prep for things like that?
I mean, yeah, we do a takeaway circuit that every day. We start off with takeaway circuit, basically how we take the ball away, and then we do pursuit drills every day. I feel like the pursuit drills help because we do that every day. So I feel like just to understand, like we do interception pursuit just in case a guy does get the ball, we got to build that wall. We block. Somebody got to make sure they get the quarterback. Somebody got to make we got certain people in that. Like when it does happen, we ready. So,
what is it like breaking that rock though? What is it like? Run us through that, because the FSU fan base, what Coach Storms has put together, strength and conditioning staff, the fans love it. But how heavy is that hammer?
Now that hammer real heavy. It be hurting your shoulder. If you carry it in pregame, that's probably the worst because it's so heavy you ain't really got nothing on. So, but I say just to break that rock, it definitely mean a lot to me because it's that game, and then you get all your brothers around you, everybody who's involved around you. They understand what you had to do something good, to break that rock. So I feel like it mean a lot, and I'm gonna remember that rock forever. I collect every piece of every game, so I got 13 of them, 13 pieces of rock this season from it being broke. So I like it, and then like I say, you showcase the game time player.
That's awesome. Austin brought up Florida earlier, and I wanted to go back to that game from this season because that's another one where you guys were able to respond from a deficit and some adversity and pull it out at the end. And you especially, you had your only interception of the season down there at the end of the game to really seal the victory. And I believe you ran off and handed the ball to your dad in the stand. So I was wondering if you could tell that story.
So in that aspect, like you said, we were down in Florida, so and then we playing with a backup quarterback. Not that meant anything, but we just know that as a defense, we got to go out here and hold our own and limit them to as many points as possible. Because we know at the end of the day, our offense is gonna do what they're gonna do. They're gonna put points on the board, and our job as a defense is to stop them. So, I skipped towards the end of the game. It's kind of like I knew who they wanted to throw the ball to because Pearsall been their go-to receiver all season long. So once I seen him line up at 3, if you see, I was like just about what a D-line was, like on their heels. And then I dropped in the coverage. Like when I'm in coverage, I realized who it was. So from there, I was like, okay, let me stay tight, close to him because I know this is probably who they're going to go to. And from there, I read the quarterback eyes and I made a play, broke on the ball. At that time, it didn't make sense to get in the end zone because we just wanted to finish out the game like a minute 30 left. So just to finish out the game, and then I ran to the sideline, gave the ball to my pop. See, I did the same thing when I caught my first interception at Florida. I did the same exact thing, but we wasn't allowed to keep the ball. This time I kept the ball, and he felt like the celebrity in the stands when he got that ball. He put it in the air and everything.
Man, your dad is a celebrity for FSU Twitter fans. I mean, he's all over Twitter, and just tell us about your dad and your relationship because we can definitely tell it's tight there. I believe I heard on an interview before that he's traveling to so many games. He drives to a majority of these, right?
Yes, sir. I think he didn't miss a game. I think these past 2 years, I think he was just about at every game. So just to have a family member who's in the stands every game, who's supporting you. And who raised you, just to go out there and be my best for him and for the rest of my family. Because like I said, it was hard and it was long, and just to see me go out there on that stage, definitely brought tears to his eyes. Because who would ever thought that your son would have been at Florida State and then going to the NFL draft? So I just say just it's payback basically from me to him. Just make it as far as I can and just be my best.
That shot is awesome. I mean, whoever took these photos, shout out to them. But you handing the ball off to your dad, you got your a name print on the back of your jersey here, looking at your dad with
that was tough.
That's fire. That needs to be printed off too. Whenever you move, wherever you end up, we might just send a Canva of that your way. That's fire.
I need it.
But going over to the ACC championship, you kind of talked about it with the Gators there, that the defense had to step up with the backup quarterback coming in. So you guys go to Charlotte, and now it's on to the third string. And I think you could tell that the defense, I mean, really knew they needed to step up. One of the most impressive performances, I think some could say, in Florida State history as far as that game. I mean, you guys were just flying around all night and only gave up 6 points to an offense that was averaging, I think, 30 or more coming into the night. So, I mean, can you just talk about that one and winning a ring at Florida State?
I just say, going into that game, we knew, what we had to do as a defense. We had that mindset, like we came too far, let up now. Like, this is the ACC championship. This was, one of the goals that we always talked about. So let's go out here and, be our best and put our best foot forward. Because, like I said, I want to go win a championship before I left, and that's what I did with the guys I got with me. So just through that whole process, through that whole week, we had the mindset. Once they put us in, it's on. We didn't want to let up because we knew, like I said, we knew we were playing with a backup quarterback. So just to go out there and limit them as many points as possible and just let our offense go out there and do what they do. And like I said, it definitely going to mean a lot, when it rains. It's going to be a big rain, too. To win the ACC championship at Florida State, we added something else to the wall, during my time there. And I say I definitely going to remember all the memories. I still go back and watch all the games to this day. So just to get the experience, like I'm still there. So like I said, it's gonna mean a lot to me. When I get my ring, I'm gonna probably never take it off. And I'm a champion.
Yeah, you deserve it, man. If you could describe this defense last year in one word, how would you describe it? Because it was absolutely nasty. And we'll get to the college football playoff part here in a minute, but you could describe that defense.
Because we had all the times, but how LSU had that national championship team, like we just knew from the beginning of the season that they were that good. So through then, I feel like we were the same way. We had all like offense and defense. I feel like we had no missing pieces, no downfall, and also that came with development and trust. Just going through most of them guys been there my whole time too. So just to build that chemistry on and off the field, and like I said, we had that goal in mind to our whole time there that we got to get us a championship. So that's really it.
I hate to transition to this one, and it's been a couple of months now, but looking back on it, can you just talk about the college football playoff snub and kind of the aftermath of everything there, and I mean just how bullshit of a decision that was?
Yeah. So it really hurt the most because it was the day after the ACC championship. So, all our feelings are high, that we already know we got a solidified spot in the playoffs. So just to go back there, the next day we all together, and then we just in the room watching it on the big screen. And then as a team, we knew that if we were going to get in, we were going to be number 3. So it's like once they put Texas in, it's like, okay, Bama got a loss, and, we undefeated, so who they really going to put in? And then to see that fourth slide took up by Alabama, it's like, we worked so hard for them just to do this. They put 2 lost teams in there. It's like, what else more did we need to prove? We went undefeated. We played with backwards quarterbacks, so we showed y'all that we knew how to win regardless, so no matter what circumstance. So, to me, that definitely, it hurt because, that's what I wanted. I wanted to go make the playoffs and go win the national championship. And, all that being taken away by some votes, like, you can't even say nothing because it's like a slap in the face to me. That's how we felt. Like it was a slap in the face. Like, y'all aren't as good as y'all thought y'all was. But in all reality, we were probably the best team in college football.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel like when you saw those other teams in the playoffs that y'all could battle against them? It wasn't like a thing where I don't know if we can take these guys on.
We knew that from after the ACC championship, like when we got on the bus, it was like, okay, we got to play Michigan. Because we knew if we were going to get in, we were going to be 3 or 4. We were going to have to play either Michigan or Washington. So I feel like we would have matched up perfectly. Then against anybody. Like, I'd take my guys against anybody, Because I feel like I said, we had a juggernaut defense. So just to go out there, you're going to have to find ways to beat us, and it's not really that many ways to beat us because we all can run, we all smart, and we all understand the game of football. So, just to have that taken away from us, like, hey, they took away an opportunity, for us to make a name for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Another reason why a lot of guys came back too, man. A lot of guys, a lot of star players from this last season.
But after that happened, you had every right to opt out like we saw some other guys do and, protect your future as you move on to the professional level. But instead, you decided to stick around with Florida State and play in that Orange Bowl. What made you want to do that and finish your career with the Seminoles in Miami?
I say I want to come in like I came out with a Florida State uniform coming in, so I'm gonna wear it as many times as I can before I go out. So just just to have that opportunity with the young guys, for the experience, just to communicate with guys that I probably didn't talk to as much. So I feel like I just enjoyed the whole process. For me, it was just making sure I leave it better than what I found, and making sure the young guys still understand the standard of how we practice and how we do things. Is making sure everything not gonna go your way. Like, it's adversity, so you just gotta be able to push through it. And for me, like I said, the reason I play is because for the young guys, you're gonna get so many opportunities to wear the uniform. So I want to take advantage of all of them, and just make sure I go out the right way.
I think that's extremely impressive too, Kalen. It was emotional for you though
Yes,
on
sir.
your last game there. Can you take us through that? We put out a video of you with Coach JP and you're leaving the field, but can you take us through that moment?
It's like during that moment, I wanted to keep playing. Like, I didn't want to come off the field at all. So like when Coach took me out, I was like, okay, this is really it. Like, I didn't play my last snap as a Florida State Seminole. So I just want to make sure, I went around and thanked everybody, for pouring into me from the time they got there to the time I left. They believed in me the whole process. And like I say, that experience, I'm gonna remember forever. Like I said, I still go back and watch the game, no matter what happened. Just the coaches that instilled whatever, like all the values that they had. They poured into me. Any little thing on and off the field. So that's why I feel like it was emotional for me, because I feel like I gave everything to the university and they gave me everything back. So it don't get no better than that.
And it was impressive. I mean, they had to drag you off that field. I think it was right around the end of the third or beginning of the fourth quarter. So I mean, you played a ton that night. But I did want to ask you about some of the younger guys on the roster, because now with you and Tatum moving on, FSU really needs some guys to step up in that linebacker room. Obviously, DJ is coming back, and you've got Omar Graham, Blake Nicholson, Justin Cryer, some guys like that. So can you just tell us, who's going to be the next up in that linebacker room, and who should Florida State fans be looking out for?
I really say all of them. All of them are different. They bring a different type of them to the game. You see, Lundy, he got that power. He gonna hit you on contact. Omar, he gonna do what he do. He gonna make plays. He make plays that you wouldn't think Omar would make, and then he still end up making them. So he athletic for what he is. And then Blake, he got his speed, and Blake willing to make plays. He going willing to hit. And Juice is the same way. Juice, coachable. He's ready to listen, ready to learn for anything, any little tip that you give him. Juice gonna work on it consistently. So I feel like Coach Shannon got a good group of guys, good group of leaders in that linebacker room to where it shouldn't be no drop off. I believe in each and every one of them, because, like I said, they see what it needs to look like, and they just have to continue to go pour it in each and every day, and then they'll have the same outcome we had. So I'm really excited for those guys.
Delo spent a lot of time in Tallahassee. We talked about in the production meeting, but I'm leading you into it. Favorite food spot while you're in Tallahassee? We had Fabo on as our last guest, and I'm pretty sure he lined up like 5+ places. But he's a big boy, so that was definitely
he like to eat, so he go to everything.
It's also on his Instagram stories too. No matter what, it's up there. He's on the ICA bowls or whatever they are now. But what are you getting up in Tally?
I'm from Georgia, so I like a little oxtails and rice. So I go to G&G's every once in a while, I get some oxtails and rice. And then I go to Kusha sometimes. They got some good pasta there. So I go there and get their pasta. And then I got one more. I like hibachi. So Nagoya, like anytime I go there, I make sure I get the hibachi, because I like the fried rice, the chicken, all that. So those are my top 3.
I like it. Kucha's is good. Kucha's got good food all around, man.
Oh,
The whole
yeah.
variety. The pasta.
Good choices. Good choices.
Yep.
You had a long career in Tallahassee, some ups and downs, and really finished your career on a high note at Florida State. When you look back at your 5 years in Tallahassee, what are some things that you're going to remember and cherish the most, whether it was on or off the field?
I say most so playing in that stadium, sellout crowd for my whole season. So just to see Doak at that capacity is like, I'm gonna remember that forever. I got to get a picture of it because that's something you remember forever. And then outside of just to meet new people, just to go around campus and just meet others, hear their background and why they came to Florida State and what they plan on getting from Florida State. Definitely a family atmosphere. Wherever you go, it's gonna feel like home. So I feel like that right there itself just made it feel like home. I got to play good football and I still get to meet people outside of football. So it don't get no better than that.
One of those major sellouts was one of your first games seeing true action, the Notre Dame game in 2021. Even though Florida State ended up losing that game, what was it like to be in that environment, be in a close game with a great Notre Dame team?
For that was really my first time to see Doak that pack. So when I'm out there, like you can see the vibrations on the field. And I'm like, this can't be real. So like just for me out there, just to go like, dang, I'm really out here playing against Notre Dame. And I'm playing for one of the best teams in college football. So just to go out there as a young guy, just make a name for myself. Like I said, don't get no better than that. Don't get no bigger than this. So just go out there and do what I do.
Delo, if you were, you've hosted a lot of recruits coming in, transfers and such, but what do you tell them whenever they're coming visiting to Tallahassee, coming to visit Florida State, coming to meet with Mike Norvell, Randy Shannon, etc., Adam Fuller? What are you telling them?
I'm telling you, make sure you're ready to work because this is the place you got to be willing to work, even when you don't feel good. Coach gonna push you to be your best on and off the field. And coach actually do any little thing is for a reason. So make sure you lock in and focus on what coach, the little details, and to understand how you can apply them to your game. Like I say, all of them, they're gonna make sure they get their best out of you. So just make sure you give your best each and every day.
Last one for me tonight, and really appreciate you coming on, Kalen. But Pro Day coming up in a couple of weeks. You're coming back to Tallahassee. What do you want to show scouts as you get one more chance to compete alongside some of your former teammates?
I'll just showcase, any other question they got asked left. Continue to showcase my athleticism, a nose for the ball, and just showcase, my speed. Be able to run guys down there and come in and out of breaks. Being able to show how versatile I am on the field. We can put me wherever, and a play gonna be made. So just continue to, showcase who I am and, just go out there and be my best. I got to do the bench press when I come there, so I got to really lock in for that. But other than that, just making sure I'm staying on my technique for the drills and, just making sure I'm coming in shape,
I am the basketball guy, so I got to ask, why did your brother have to beat us? Like, come on, man.
I think he had, because he knew he was coming to Tallahassee, so he knew he had to play extra hard that game because this is who I'm at. So he knew that he had to come in and do what he do. But I can't really speak on that. I think it was just their day that day.
My last question for you, Kalen, where do you think this program's headed? And I forget who we had on last, but I always bring this up to them because I think people are now expecting for Florida State to hit a lull this next season and maybe not be have a fighting chance for a college football, playoff run. Now you have a higher chance of making that college football playoff because there's 12 teams now. Shouldn't have a snub anymore of Florida State. They do what they need to do and take care of things in Charlotte. But, where do you think this program's heading with Mike Norvell and the 2024 season ahead?
To me, I feel like it's headed to the top. They got great coaches all around, from strength coaches to nutrition staff to academics. I feel like all of it comes together, and I feel like that Coach Norvell brought in a great staff. He got great people around him. To where like they're gonna push each other to be their best. It should be, like I said, it shouldn't be no drop off. So just to continue to push the guys and understand them, make sure he understand like what he's want the guys to know, You know, because I'm confident in all of them because it feels like I'm still there with them. So I believe in everything Coach Neville has, you know, in the program and the people he get to do it with. You know, they don't want no drop off either. So I feel like they're going to continue to push the standard and, you know, continue to rise to the top. And we're going to see what come the playoffs where we at.
I like it. I like it. Well, the chat, as you can tell, the fans have been loving this interview. I appreciate you staying on here a little bit extra too for 40 minutes, giving phenomenal insight throughout your career, you developing as a leader and y'all making the run that you did. And, you know, now it's on to the next. And I think too, a team, whoever picks you up is going to be very lucky. And I think the program as a whole is, like you said, heading in the right direction. It might not need to be slept on going in this 2024 season, man.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, man, Kalen, appreciate you. Been looking forward to this for a while, but I'm sure we'll stay in touch and hopefully down the road get you back on here and maybe help us preview a game this upcoming season. So, Kalen, appreciate you big time. Awesome interview.
Sir. Appreciate you guys, man. Enjoy the opportunity.
Appreciate it, Kalen. See you in a couple weeks for Pro Day.
Yes, sir. I'll be there.
Hell yeah. And it was super fun just covering you throughout your career, man. Super professional. Shout out to your family too. Good people and representing Florida State very well throughout your years. So shout out to you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, Kalen. Have a good one. Have a good evening, man. Good luck in the pro day.
Yes, sir. Y'all too.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey, he said good luck to you, Delo. So are you running the 40? Is that what we're hearing?
Surprise, surprise. I have declared for the 2024 NFL draft.
Oh, God.
Holy. Nice.
Eighth year senior out of Florida State University.
8th year. It's longer than that now.
Hey, I saw in the spring game announcement it's sponsored by Whataburger, so press box food might be fire.
Nah, I doubt it.
Damn. Back to the Chick-fil-A boxes.
Just give me some hot dogs, 12 of them.
Yeah, I had to hit Champions Club or whatever's going on in that stadium. I don't know how this thing's going to happen with half the stadium not being there.
I don't think anyone knows yet. I mean, they mowed it down, so.
Where are you going? We don't know where you're headed. You might be going.
Bring a lawn chair and sit in the rubble.
Yeah, let's bring your laptop. Make sure they got good Wi-Fi, and you'll be good. But
get a tetanus shot, and it'll work out.
But yeah, man, Kalen. That's exactly what I expected. We all knew it'd be a great interview, but just the insight that he gave us, just as a player, I became a major fan just of a person of him during that Orange Bowl game, and you just saw how much he loved Florida State. And you see this a lot with these other guys. I mean, Brian Jones has got probably like a foot-long tattoo on his ribs of the spear right there. But these guys love Florida State. They love what the program is building and what Mike Norvell is doing. And just to see Kalen DeLoach and hear from him and his background of how it all came about, just phenomenal. I love that kid, and it's going to be so super fun to cover him on the next level.
It was everything I was expecting and more. Really great to hear the insight over his 5 years at Florida State. And like you said, just such a well-spoken guy and a really good representative for Florida State, and someone that I think Florida State fans are going to be following for a long time after what he did during his time with the Seminoles. And, that honestly, we've had 5 guests on this offseason. That might have been my favorite one. I mean, that was really awesome just getting a chance to talk with Kalen for about everything. I mean, literally career at FSU, combine, what's coming next. Really great representative of Florida State.
Yeah, both him and Jarian were great, and hopefully I can get one of them in purple this offseason.
I know, right? Like, I think you and me and VZ are just being really selfish at the moment. We just need one of them from the Garden Gold, man. Just one. Give me one, man. I was spoiled, though. I had Vince Williams for a very long time, so I was absolutely spoiled.
I mean, I had Dalvo, so we were always spoiled to a little. You also had Lawrence Timmons.
Now I was about to say that LT as well. So I was just stupid stacked. So I had my run, but now it's been a little stale at the moment. So Mike Tomlin, like Delo said, expected to see Pittsburgh head coach up there for pro day. Doesn't shock me though. I think he hadn't been there the last couple of years, but when FSU's like this and they're loading out definitely defensive products, Mike Tomlin loves coming up to Tallahassee. So, that will be fun. And there's going to be a handful of other coaches, a lot of coaches. It's going to be a whole different show, Dustin, than what, we had been seeing and what you're going to see.
They might not even give us a sideline. We're going to be trapped in the corner.
Yeah,
y'all gonna be on one of those crane lifts in the corner.
I'll take that from what the angles that we're getting. We'll take anything or get me lifted or anything. But good stuff there from Kalen. Wishing him the best. And he talked with the Tampa Bay Bucks. So and the Bucks are in the market for looking at some linebackers too, just depending to what Devin White, Levante David. That Levante David, they don't figure something out there, then that kind of fits that mold there for what they're looking from Kalen to bring to that defense. So watch out, Buccaneers fans. That would be a nice pickup for you guys with Delo coming into town. Gentlemen, it's spring offensive preview time, and I'm super stoked about this because,
One question.
Go ahead.
Why aren't we previewing the defense if we had Delo on?
We should have.
Just the time of the day, once we get on J Trav, Trey Benson, Keon, Johnny, then, we're just going to reverse it a little bit. But yeah, didn't hit the theme, but we had to get Kalen on after that performance up there in ND. But yeah, we're going offense. Got to get it done. We will not be live next week. It's spring break. I won't be here. This is where we take our 1 week break out of the year. God forbid, but we do need to take a break. So we'll be back with our defensive preview in 2 weeks, and we'll also be recapping the first day of spring camp too. So these next 2 episodes are absolutely loaded for you guys. Well, let's get started. We don't have a lot of time to waste. First off, just first thoughts about going into the offense here for you guys, because right now, yes, a big amount of guys that you had big time targets, big time talent, special playmakers, starting off with number 1, Jordan Travis, no longer being on this team. You brought in Oregon State transfer DJ U, and now it's starting to figure out, hey, where does this offense go? How do you build around it? Y'all are laughing. We're going to get down the full name once we get closer to the season. I just don't want to look like a fool at the moment. Anyways, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, there's still some talent in a lot of these areas, and Florida State continues to reload in those 2, which we're talking about, running back, wide receiver. Talent is a revolving door in those, but there is going to be some question marks as we go into this spring camp, gentlemen, on who's going to step in and take that next step. And there's going to be named a handful of new starters as we go into 2024.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of question marks about who's going to step up for Florida State, because not only a new starting quarterback, but a new starting running back, multiple new starting wide receivers. You had tight ends, Jaheim Bell, Marquise and Douglas, and Preston Daniel all move on from Florida State for various reasons. So a lot of experience coming back along that offensive line and some really key transfers coming in there. But outside of that, Florida State, a little unproven, and, they're going to need some guys to step up. And you think at wide receiver, getting Kentron Poitier back to full health, he's someone that could potentially develop into a star for FSU if he's able to be on the field. Darion Williamson, Ja'Kai Douglas, some other really experienced guys there. Hakeem Williams, someone who maybe if he can fulfill his potential and step up could be a big weapon for Florida State. And same thing at running back. You've got LT coming back, but outside of that, not a ton of proven guys. Roydell Williams coming in from Alabama is someone that Florida State hoping can play a sizable role out of the gate. And you look at the tight ends, Kyle Morlock coming back, but outside of that, you're going to need Jackson West to step up, and you've got Landon Thomas coming in from that 2024 recruiting class. So not a ton of experience on this roster, but a ton of talent. And if Florida State can develop it, this is still a roster that should be near the top of college football.
My first thought when I see this offense is speed. And you could tell it at the combine with Keon and Johnny. Johnny ran a great time for his size. Keon obviously disappointed in the 40 like we talked about last week. But Norvell wanted to bring in some speed, and you could see how much he was talking about speed with all the other guys, with Jarian, Renardo, Trey Benson, all these guys. So you bring in Malik Benson, you bring in Jalen Lucas, you bring in Jalen Brown. There's so much speed on this offense, and even when you have Ja'Kai Douglas returning and some of these other guys, there is so much speed on this offense, and it's really going to fit DJ Uyungale's arm. He just wants to push the ball down the field, and I think Coach Norvell brought in the right set of receivers to get that done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's jump into that quarterback room right now. DJ, Brock Glenn, Luke Kromenhoek as a true freshman. We saw Brock Glenn out of nowhere have to get playing time. who would have ever thought that we'd see him jump into a role where he's the starting quarterback for the ACC championship. Luke Romanhawk got to come in and practice that bowl week and get some time in a little bit, just understanding and getting used to the practices and such. But this is up to DJ now, and that's your expected starter going into this. I think too, you're going to see a lot of surge from Tokar's Florida State starting quarterback, but our quarterback's coach there, Tony Tokar's, is going to get the start there in Ireland against Georgia Tech. Now, Tony Tokar's has done a really good job of developing these guys, and I'm wondering too how much he's going to push seeing Glenn and Cromanhawk get some more opportunities this spring, because what we saw last year, these guys got to be ready in case something happens. And, DJ is your starter, gentlemen. Thoughts on him and coming over from Oregon State previously to the Clemson Tigers?
I think Mike Norvell and Tony Tokar's have a lot to be excited about here, because look at what they were able to do with Jordan Travis over his tenure at Florida State. I mean, he developed at an unparalleled level, and, credit to Jordan Travis, but I think you also have to give a nod to Tony Tokar's and Norvell and the coaching department as well. And now you have someone in DJU who was a 5-star recruit out of high school, hasn't necessarily lived up to that billing entirely yet at the college level, but I mean, he's displayed a ton of potential coming off a season at Oregon State where he had the most passing yards of any season in his career, despite throwing less total passes than in his 2 years as a starter at Clemson, a career high in yards per attempt. And he's 30-10 as a starter. And plus, you look at the physicals. I mean, 6'4", 240 pounds. This is a big dude playing quarterback, and someone that Florida State should be able to utilize in different ways as far as scrambling than they were able to do with Jordan Travis. So, I mean, I think it's going to be fun. It's definitely going to be a transition. DJ and Jordan are different players, some similarities, but a lot of differences. And I'm going to be interested to see kind of how Florida State tweaks this offense a little bit to fit more into his skills and strengths. But I mean, it's going to be a fun couple of weeks to watch this as it progresses.
I love that he wanted to be at Florida State. He didn't really visit anywhere else, didn't really talk to any other schools. He knew Florida State was going to suit him best because Norvell can fit and mold an offense around the quarterback like we've seen with Jordan Travis these past few years. I'm really excited to see what Norvell decides to do with him and these 3rd and 4th down and short packages, because we saw last year, when they would get in those 3rd and 1, 4th and 1s, Florida State's offense really struggled, and it started to get those slow starts against like Duke, where they had those 2 really bad 4th down failed conversions. Having a guy like DJ that's, as Dustin mentioned, 6'4", 240, 250 pounds, he can just muscle his way through. I think that's going to be a really fun wrinkle for Norvell's offense. Maybe we see our own version of the tush push. Who knows? But I think it's going to be a really exciting offense, and I think it's going to be a different offense from what we've seen the last few years. And, I think Norvell can, like I said, I think he can mold an offense to get the best out of anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and taking shots, like y'all were saying, if DJ is going to be taking shots, he's got the speed now. I mean, there's so many playmakers that he can go to in that running back room. You've got some young talent too in the tight end room, but that wide receiver room, which we're about to preview, is absolutely loaded. It's always loaded. Ron Dugan's the donk. It just continues. It's full diesel. It's always full. That thing just continues to be a revolving door for talent, and not only in the recruiting trail, but also in the transfer portal, like we'll talk about here in a few. But yeah, talent-wise, it doesn't make too much of any kind of thinking process too much for DJ. I think, too, like you were saying, for him wanting to come to Florida State, I think is really intriguing to me. He's talked about it, looking forward to facing Clemson this upcoming season. But I just am interested to see what kind of offense is going to be ran, and it's going to be fun to watch, too, Dustin, whenever we get done with spring break and you're there at practices. I'm really interested to get your thoughts on what you're seeing, what this offensive scheme, if there's been any changes, how are they running with DJ a little bit, because it is going to be a different look than what we saw with Jordan Travis.
We'll see how much they let me report on that.
Come on, give the listeners what we need to hear. All right, just a little tidbit. It's only spring, test the waters a tiny bit. Come on, give it to the listeners. Anything more on the quarterbacks here? I know we touched on Brock Lynn there and Luke Cromanhawk, but I think the biggest things for them is just continuing to get more experience. And I'm keeping an eye on Luke Cromanhawk. I think that's someone that I think could see a faster click with this offense, just because that is a true born. I want to call him like back in Game of Thrones style, where It's your firstborn, and that's what I'm going with Mike Norvell. This is his destined quarterback. He finally got his guy that he's been recruiting from the very beginning, and ended up keeping and stuck with Florida State. And he finally got his I don't know what to call it, but it's Game of Thrones style. People would understand, if they watch the show. But he finally got his quarterback. If you think about it, he hadn't had his quarterback that he recruited from day one, end up getting the first offer over to Luke, and stuck with Florida State, and now he's on this roster. I think this kid is super talented. We've seen him in person and such. I just want to see him get as much experience as possible, because you're not expecting him to get any kind of first team reps, all that kind of jazz. But man, I would love to see him get a lot of opportunities this spring, because he could be someone that could showcase a lot in that spring showcase when we get into Doak in next month.
I watched Game of Thrones, and I still wouldn't have called Luke Kromenhoek Mike Norvell's firstborn son. But regardless, it's going to be really fun to watch him develop. I mean, someone that comes in with the prototypical size. You look at what he was able to do during his 2 years as a starter at the high school level: 48 touchdown passes to 6 interceptions. And also just the mentality that he brings in. I mean, this guy's extremely competitive. He's been locked into Florida State for a long time and trying to build out this class as much as he could. And now with his career at Florida State finally beginning, I definitely think he's coming in with a little bit of an edge. We heard him talk in his introductory press conference, kind of like that he's going to come in and believe that he can compete for the starting job. And I mean, obviously, it's not very likely for a true freshman to beat out DJU and also Brock Glenn, who have some more experience in him. But just to have that type of approach to coming into Florida State, he's not coming in, believing he's just going to sit around and not play. He's coming to prepare, and I think that just says a lot about the kid.
I think I'm honestly more excited to see the growth that Brock Glenn has this spring. Obviously, he was thrust in action arguably too early this past season, just due to the injuries to J. Trav and Tate. I already forgot his name since he's at Southern Miss.
Damn, geez.
But he was just thrust in action a little too early. But I'm excited to see what kind of growth he has this spring and seeing if he could push DJ at all. I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he's got a big arm, and I think an offseason to kind of settle in and get used to the playbook is going to help him a lot.
Yeah, I like the progress that we saw in that short amount of time going into that Orange Bowl game. I mean, you're facing friggin' Georgia, man. I mean, hell on earth. Like,
I also just like Charlotte. I like how fearless he is. I mean, we saw in that Florida game, he comes in for 2 plays, is already doing checks and is running through people. I love that out of a true freshman quarterback. So excited to see his growth.
It's the kind of mentality you want to have from a true freshman, but to have that behind the center as a quarterback says a lot. And it also says too about the coaching. Coach Tokar's Mike Norvell. That's the mentality that they want to have out of their quarterbacks, and not skittish. And we've seen that before. Trust me, we've seen that before. We've covered a lot of quarterbacks come in and things are a little skittish, and it takes almost a whole season for that to be grown out of. But to come in, sacks dropped. We're here to play. It's Florida State. If you're expected to go in, you got to be ready. So, I know I'm stoked for Brock Glenn and seeing how he develops too as his second year.
Yeah, I was impressed with how he handled himself during that whole transition. He was thrown into the spotlight there and even spoke to the media for 15, 20 minutes prior to the Orange Bowl, and was nothing but complimentary of Tate Rodemaker, and just the way that he handled that situation. I think Florida State has got to be really excited, not only with Kromenhoek coming in, but also Brock Glenn waiting in the wings. I mean, we saw him last year. He was another guy that came in the spring and instantly jumped into the mix, competing with AJ Duffy and Tate Rodemaker for that backup job. And I think that ultimately paid off when he was the guy that Florida State decided to put in over AJ Duffy down the stretch. So, I mean, yeah, you can't write off Brock Glenn at all, because he's still someone that has a bright future.
Yep. Let's jump over to running backs. Coach Yak got another squad. You lose from a star at the NFL Combine with Trey Benson, now projected to be most likely number 1, maybe at the worst number 2 running back off the board, but he's trending in that number 1 range after an incredible performance up there at the Combine. But you're bringing back some talent that you had previously. You've got Lawrence Toafili, who has been around the program for a long while now, who just understands the system in a lot of different ways. Shifty running back. Keziah Holmes, someone that I think all of us on here had wanted to see quite a bit more, but there's just always been some guys ahead of him dealing with some injuries too throughout his short stint in Tallahassee, but then also now Florida State bringing in some newcomers from the transfer portal. VZ, you mentioned him a little bit ago. Speed's coming. Jalen Lucas from Indiana. You got Roydell Williams from Alabama, who I think is going to be really fun to watch this spring camp for you, D-Lou, and that competitive edge on getting some more playing time. You got Samuel Singleton Jr. also as a true freshman. And then one of your favorites, though, Cam Davis. This one might be like maybe just someone that surprises us right off the bat. Could be one of those true freshmen that we're like, oh, okay, we're going to see a true freshman in Cam Davis quite a bit in this 2024 season. Overall thoughts on this running back room, because it seems like Coach Yak has another squad in his hands.
I think even with the loss of Trey Benson, they're just going to kind of keep on rolling here at this running back position, because that's one area every year Mike Norvell and Coach Yak have a plan for what to do in that backfield. And I mean, it's been successful more often than not. So bringing back Lawrence Toafili, a guy who's been very productive throughout his career, MVP of the ACC championship game. Now it looks like he's back healthy, participating in the tour of duty after undergoing a little bit of a procedure there prior to the Orange Bowl. That's going to be big. Kaizeah Holmes now entering his third year at Florida State. So, I mean, he's got a lot of experience now in that system, and he's been able to learn behind Trey and some of those other guys, and we'll see if he's able to take the next step. Roydell Williams coming in and is someone that I'm really excited to see. Maybe the transfer, well, I'm really excited for Malik Benson too. It's hard to pinpoint, but I mean, he's going to be really fun, was very productive during his career at Alabama, and now it seems like he's going to play a big role during this year at Florida State. And then obviously Jalen Lucas, Florida State going to be able to move him all around with that speed. You're going to see him in the backfield, probably see him in the slot, someone that Florida State can utilize as a dynamic weapon. Man, Cam Davis too, another guy coming into the running back room, someone who's going to have, I think, a standout career at Florida State on and off the field, and Samuel Singleton as well. So, I mean, there's still a ton of talent here, even with Trey Benson moving on and with the offensive line that's in front of them. It could be a dangerous running attack.
I know I've said it a lot, but if there's any position I trust Norvell with the most, it's running backs. I'm expecting just a running back room by committee, even more than what we've seen the last few years. Just there's so much talent that you guys have already talked about in this backfield, and it's going to be hard to keep any of them off the field, even from true freshman Cam Davis all the way up to your more experienced guys in Toafili and Roydell Williams. It's going to be hard to keep any of these guys off the field, and how that rotation starts to come into form this spring is going to be very fascinating to watch, because you can really make the argument for really all 5 or 6 of them getting on the field at any point in the game.
I look at Jalen Lucas kind of like how Mike Norvell is trying to use Corey Wren, just with speed-wise, and I'm wondering, with a little bit of time here, being able to perfect a scheme behind him will be unique to watch, and just understanding, is he a hybrid? Could we see him out there in the slot at times? I would not be shocked by that at all, because we see Lawrence Toafili out there at times, just because how the way that he can utilize his hands. But yeah, running back room's loaded. There's no shocker here. It's going to be one of the highlighted ones as we go into spring camp. But now it's on the back of Lawrence Toafili, but how Mike Norvell runs offenses, though, you're going to see a handful of running backs in one game alone, and just depending on the scheme, what they see defensively and their opponent, things are going to switch up. But Lawrence Toafili, kind of your RB1, but we know how things run. That's going to be no shocker once we see 2 or 3 running backs get some playing time, 4 maybe, in some of these games. But just someone that I'm super stoked to see in action, in pads, is Cam Davis, just because the way that he represented himself, just like Luke Kromenhoek. Those guys have been around since day one in that recruiting class, and just to see him out there will be super fun. I know Mike Norvell's salivating with what they can do with his talent-wise, and Coach Yak. Let's jump over to wide receiver. Another room that is stupid loaded for Ron Dugans and the Donk. You're getting experience back. You lost, obviously, some big-time playmakers with Keon Coleman, also with Johnny Wilson, 2 guys that put on a show, 2 up there in Indianapolis. They're going to be drafted pretty early there in this upcoming NFL draft. But nonetheless, things got to keep moving here in Tallahassee. And yeah, they're going to keep moving. There's going to be a lot of speed here. Florida State did what they needed to do in the transfer portal, but some guys that are coming back. Kentron Poitier, how are you saying it now, Dustin? I know where we change it every year.
Poitier,
okay. Kentron Poitier. Ja'Kai Douglas. We got Deuce Spann coming back with speed. Someone that we kind of were questioning there. Would he hit the transfer portal? Would he end up sticking with Florida State? I think Mike Norvell, Dustin, you and I see him in practices, does a lot of hard coaching on Deuce Spann. He sees a lot in him. He thinks the sky's the limit for that kid. So he's sticking around for another season. And that means that we're probably going to see quite a bit of Spann in 2024. Darion Williamson, player that's been dealing with some health stuff throughout his career. If he can stay healthy, we see the signs there. Destin Hill, Hakeem Williams, who we heard from Jordan Travis at the NFL Combine, shouting him out as being a player to watch out for, being one of the most improved his freshman year. Malik Benson from Alabama. Dustin's a guy. Dustin, you named him as being probably your top guy you're going to be watching. Going into camp, Jalen Brown, LSU transfer wide receiver. My guy, Vondravius Jacobs, baby, all day Dre, going into his second year as a redshirt freshman. Lawayne McCoy, BJ Gibson, and Camden Fryer, too, who might be my second guy. Camden Fryer, watch out. We got us a white wide receiver, baby. Let's go.
Did you say Destin Hill, too?
Yeah, right before Hakeem. There's too many, dude. There's
a ton of names.
I think this
is a position coming into the spring, and Florida State obviously sitting at a projected 90 allocated scholarships, and they need to get down to at least that 85 mark and maybe a little bit under if they're going to start working on some of those NCAA penalties, the scholarships that were taken away. I think wide receiver, when you look at it, this is a position maybe we see a little bit of attrition following the spring, and we'll just see how guys are able to compete in that unit. But I think it wouldn't surprise me if maybe one or two out of this position group decide to end up hitting the portal. But again, we'll see how it plays out. And I think the wide receivers, could really make or break Florida State's offense going into 2024, because there's a ton of talent, but not necessarily a ton of proven experience on the field. I mentioned Poitier earlier. He's got really high potential, and someone that a lot of people dubbed the king of the spring last year, because he really came in and he was dominant during those spring practices, and arguably more impressive at the time than Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman before he dealt with an injury that limited him for the majority of that 2023 season. But if you can establish a solid floor with Poitier and Darion Williamson and Ja'Kai Douglas, who you all know what you're going to get out of for the most part, and then you have a guy coming in like Malik Benson, who had a record-setting career at junior college and didn't get on the field a ton at Alabama last year, but when he did, was productive in spurts. I think he's someone that if he reaches his potential, he could be a real deep threat and an instant star at Florida State. I don't know if he's going to come in and have a Keon Coleman type of impact, but I do expect him to come in and be productive and one of the top receivers in that rotation for the Seminoles. And then, you mentioned Hakeem Williams and Vondravius Jacobs, two other guys who, if they fulfill their potential, they're going to be really, really good at Florida State.
There's just so many damn receivers on this roster. Like, even if you look, if you go to Florida State's roster and do it in list form, you still have to scroll down to see everybody. I agree with Dustin. I think there's going to be a little bit of attrition in this room at the end of the spring, but it's also looking at it going, who would leave? There's so much talent. All of them, like we were saying with the running backs, all of them have an argument to see playing time. And who ends up seeing that consistent rotation is going to be really interesting to watch. And, I personally think DJ is going to want to lean more on the speed guys that we mentioned and Malik Benson and Jalen Brown, but they also have to prove it on the field in spring and obviously once we get to summer and fall. But this is going to be a big spring for a lot of these guys, especially like Tron. He's got to finally stay healthy. Destin Hill and Hakeem were banged up a little bit throughout the latter part of the season. They've got to be healthy throughout spring. It's going to be a cutthroat spring for these receivers, and they got to go out and prove it.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Destin Hill or Jalen Brown when I was talking a second ago. The competition for playing time is going to be absolutely fierce. And at the same time, I think it's going to give Florida State a lot of different combinations that they can trot out at wide receiver depending on the situation. And, this offense has leaned pretty heavily on that tight end unit the last 2 years. And now with some of the hits that they've taken there with Jaheim and Kyle Morlock and Marquise and Douglas all moving on, I think maybe we see a little bit of a fade there. And now we see a lot more receivers on the field.
Yeah, just on the versatility. If you want jump ball guys, you got Tron. If you want speed, you got speed. If you want slot guys, there's 3 or 4 different slot guys. There's just so many different combinations that Norvell has to work with that we really haven't had since he's been at Florida State.
Kyle left us.
No,
Kyle's still here.
Jaheim Bell, Preston Daniel, and Mark Easton.
Yeah, you accidentally said Kyle. Poor Kyle. He's still here. Kyle didn't
He's still
leave
around.
yet. He's still around. We're gonna get to him. But yeah, that wide receiver room's stupid. Just some names. I got to see Kentron just stay healthy, man. You could see the signs. We see the signs. His hands. He's a red zone threat. A lot of quarterbacks like going to him. Just stay healthy, and it goes the same regard to Darion Williamson. If those two guys could stay healthy, Mike Norvell has so much praise for those guys. But you're going to look at Kentron as being, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, unless someone comes in and takes that place. But I think one that's hot right now is Hakeem Williams, and the way that he kind of changed his mindset this last year. Because, yeah, he was struggling. He was not doing good, and he was struggling in the camps and wasn't in shape and just wasn't looking good. Even Jordan Travis said that. And then, things shifted, and we saw a change. And then, too, we saw his touchdown this last season, where, he utilized his speed, and you're like, oh, Hakeem Williams, who tweeted out recently the wrong person's name. They tweeted out the wrong name, and it was Hakeem Williams. But
I want to say that was a joke tweet. I forget who it was, but I want to say it was a joke tweet. Just trying to get
it was
engagements.
a sports betting site. It was a sports betting site. It was DraftKings, wasn't it?
It might have been, but I want to say they're just doing it to get engagements from Florida State fans. It's a very easy fan base to rile up, and you can you can engagement farm a little bit if you know what you're doing. I think that's what that was.
Yeah. But true, Malik Benson, someone to watch out for from Alabama. And I think one thing that we look back and just hearing some chatter from Alabama, their biggest thing about him just staying consistent with catching the ball, and that's something that we look back at Johnny Wilson, something he had to correct as well. But if Malik can get that fixed and corrected, and Coach Dugans can do his thing, there's going to be so many fights for playing time. So wide receiver room, stupid stacked as always, and is going to be one of the biggest highlights as we go into camp in a few weeks.
Yeah, and as far as Hakeem, it really sucked to see him have some of that developmental time taken down the stretch. Obviously suffered that injury there during the middle of the season, missed that stretch from it was after the Duke game. So missed that stretch right up until he finally was back in action at the Orange Bowl, where he ended up playing a season high in snaps. But yeah, he had about 6 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks or so taken away from him while dealing with that injury. But before that, man, he was definitely ascending, putting together good practice after good practice, getting a lot of compliments from Mike Norvell. And, he came in as an athletic freak, and then he started to hone in on that route running. And that was something that I think caught the attention of the coaching staff. And there's a reason why Jordan Travis called him the most improved player on Florida State's roster from a year ago. So I think that's one with the 5-star potential that fans need to be excited about as well.
Tight end time. Lost Jaheim Bell. He was another guy up there in Indianapolis. Had a nice little one-handed snag there in one of his drills, but don't have him on board anymore, but still got some experience from this last season. Kyle Morlock is returning for his last year. You've got a super talented young cat coming in with 5-star Landon Thomas as you flipped him over from Georgia, and Kirby Smart. You still got Jackson West. You got Jarrell Powers, someone that I think is I'm really high on still. And also Brian Courtney, one of D-Lou's favorites, probably one of his top 5 FSU football players all time. Don't you agree, VZ? I think it's top 5. I think it's
maybe top 3.
It might be. It's increasing year by year.
Silence is loud.
No comment. I don't.
Oh man.
What do you want me to say?
I want you to show him love. That's one of your top 5 players of all time. So, except for the long snapper and whoever that is every year.
I like the long snapper.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with long snapper. But I do have some questions about this tight end unit, because you're losing a ton of snaps from the last couple of years, not only with Jaheim and his one season at Florida State, but Marquise Douglas and Preston Daniel were 2 guys that played a lot for Florida State over the last couple of years. And now you've got Kyle Morlock coming back, and, he had some ups and he had some downs. I think statistically he graded out as the worst starter on Florida State's offense, according to PFF. So you're hoping that he can grow some now going into his second season at the FBS level after starting off at D2. So hopefully, he took his lumps in 2023, and now you're going to see a big step forward from him moving into 2024. And, outside of that, it's really just who's going to step up and develop, because Jackson West has been banged up throughout his time at Florida State and did get named the most improved player on offense from a season ago. So maybe that's a promising sign. And then you've got Brian Courtney, who's been on the field on and off, and they were kind of looking at converting him to linebacker, ended up keeping him at tight end. So we'll see if he's able to show off some of that athleticism, has gotten in there and caught a couple 2-point conversions in his time. And Jarrell Powers, someone who was a high school wide receiver, converted to tight end at Florida State, has been banged up and just unable to get on the field so far during his career with the Seminoles. And Landon Thomas coming in, and that's really got to be the guy, and someone that Florida State needs to play immediately, in my opinion, because a top 100 recruit, someone who was productive at the high school level, can go out there and be a receiving threat. It's really, can he put on enough weight to help in the blocking game? And that's going to be something to watch over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I agree. I think this room's going to come down to how quickly Landon Thomas can get up to speed. No offense to the other guys, but we just haven't seen it at Florida State yet. It's one of those rooms that if Morlock, knock on wood, if he gets hurt, there's a ton of question marks in that room. You've got to see development behind him. And even Morlock has to become more consistent as well, as you were mentioning with his PFF grades. There's a lot of question marks, a lot of inexperience. We also know that Norvell likes to use his tight ends, and I think he'll get these guys coached up. But until we see that, there's going to be those question marks, and hopefully one of these other guys can step up.
Yeah,
it just feels like we're starting to go back towards, we would get on here and talk about the tight end room in 2020 and 2021, and there wasn't a lot of endearing things to say about the tight ends. And it kind of felt like last year we were really excited to talk about the tight ends in the spring and the fall, because there was just so many weapons, so much versatility. And now it feels like they've definitely taken a step back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just wondering who's going to be blocking with Biscuit not being there anymore. I thought that was one of the FSU's biggest losses in the transfer portal.
We saw Jackson West do that a little bit down the stretch of the season in the Florida game.
That's
I have to imagine it'll be him.
Point to, and if Jarrell can take that next step, his is just getting down the playbook and everything. He's got the physical attributes. But I'd like to see him, he's more of a hybrid. He can go out there and catch passes too. So that's why I'd like to see, someone's got to take a big step in this room, or it's going to be something where we look into the fall preview and we're like, whoa, FSU doesn't really have too much of a crazy threat or a ton of depth there as well. So, that's something, we're going to be monitoring this spring camp and seeing if there's going to be any changes, or we look at the back of the transfer portal or something. But, tight end room, not as heavily, not a high expectations like we had thought about or, talked about this last season at all going into spring camp.
And that's why I think this offense is going to feature the running backs and the receivers a lot more, because, last year we saw those two tight end sets with Jaheim and Morlock, and I just don't think we're going to see that as much. You're going to see a lot more 3-4 wide receivers on the field and multiple running backs.
I am curious. I know we'll touch on the offensive lineman here in a second, but I am curious to see if we see any 6 offensive lineman sets to act as like a second or third blocking tight end. I could absolutely see Norvell and Coach Atkins just entering in that little wrinkle, because the running game struggled last year, and a lot of that was due to some inconsistencies blocking up front. So maybe getting another guy up there would help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. Let's jump over to the offensive line, gentlemen. Coach Atkins, like Coach Dugans and Coach Yak, there's a revolving door and guys coming into this group. It's one of the biggest position groups on the roster, but a lot of experience too is coming back into this squad, some too from other programs as well. But I'm just going to lay it out just overall, and we can jump into position by position there. At the front line, some names to keep a close eye on, though. Some experience coming back. Darius Washington, I think, is Florida State's top offensive lineman, just the way that he's been a hybrid. He's grown so well, and I continue to give props to him because I used to be so hard on him, but he's developed into one of Florida State's best offensive linemen that you can rely on. Robert Scott, too, is coming back for his 18th season at Florida State. Got some young talent, though, at the left tackle position with Lucas Simmons. Keandre Drones, I think, is
Jones.
I'm trying to say Keandre Jones, but I kind of was flipping off there. Sorry, Keandre. But Keandre Jones, former Auburn transfer, offensive lineman, he comes back. I think is a big addition for that left guard position, though, for Florida State. Bryson Estes, one of the strongest guys on the roster. if he could take that next step, it'd be nice. Maurice Smith, another guy that's been around for a very long time. Richie Leonard might be someone that you could sub in at the center position for him. Darius Washington also, we've seen him step in that position if need be at center. Right guard, though, most likely going to be Richie Leonard's spot there in his last season of college football, the former Florida offensive lineman starter there for Billy Napier. Terrence Ferguson, though, someone to watch in this camp as well. Alabama transfer. And then Jeremiah Byers, too, right tackle, is something that we're going to be keeping a close eye on with Julian Armella, seeing if he can take that next developmental step. So still a lot of experience coming back to this room, which, when you want to see offensive plays get down the field, you've got an experienced quarterback back there. It helps a ton.
Yeah, I think coming to the spring, when you look at it, there's so much experience coming back for Florida State, but really Darius Washington, Maurice Smith, and Jeremiah Byers, I think, are probably the three that have the inside track on securing starting jobs. Robert Scott, someone who's shown a ton of talent during his Florida State career, just hasn't been on the field much these past 2 seasons. And, he's kind of a wild card at the moment. If he can get back and be healthy, I mean, he could instantly be thrust into that conversation as well, but something that we're kind of waiting and seeing on. Keandre Jones, was a valuable contributor for Florida State last year, going to be in the mix. And it's really the guard spots that we're looking at as far as the competition, because you kind of said them all, Logan, but Keandre Jones, Bryson Estes, Richie Leonard, and TJ Ferguson are going to be battling inside there for those 2 starting spots. And regardless, I think this is once again going to be an offensive line by committee, where you really have between 6 to 9 guys that could enter into the lineup and help out as the season progresses, depending on the matchup. And we saw Coach Atkins experiment a lot with that last year, where Florida State truly didn't have a 5-man starting offensive line, and it kind of changed a little bit as the season went on. And, if some guys were hurt, you could move guys around. And obviously I'm talking about Darius Washington there and his versatility. So I think it's, having all those guys coming back and the guys that they've added in as well, I think there's a lot of promise with this Florida State offensive line that we've just seen get better and better each season under the tutelage of Alex Atkins. And I don't see any reason why that shouldn't be the case once again with the amount of veterans here. And really the key is just staying healthy, I think.
I think for me in spring, I'm more looking at the guys that have been here for a year or two, but are still, that second or third string guys, the Julian Armellas, the Andre Ottos, the Jalen Earlys. I need those guys to step up, because as you mentioned, there's a ton of experience, ton of starting experience with those first 5, 7, or 8 guys. But next year, a lot of those guys are gone, and they're going to be relying on these guys to take that next step.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to start showing that this offseason. I know Logan's a big fan of Armella, and we haven't really gotten to see him on the field much, but these guys have to get caught up to speed. They have to be prepared just in case something happens this year. But they've also got to be ready for next season, and it starts with this spring.
Yeah, I think outside of those 3 that you just mentioned, Jalen Early, Julian Armella, and Andre Otto, I have to say I think Early is probably the farthest along on that developmental track. And
I agree.
He was even someone, whenever we had Fabian Lovett on a couple weeks ago, Fabo highlighted him as one of the offensive linemen that had given him some trouble in practice at times. And I mean, that's something that we can kind of reflect. You go back to some of the practice reports from last fall, and there was a stretch where the light really seemed to turn on for Jalen Early during those 3-on-2 drills against the defensive line and the 1-on-1s. And we've talked about it before. Coach Atkins has always coached him extremely hard, just because he knows how good Jalen Early could be one day if he does live up to that potential. And so that's one that I'm really watching here, and Julian Armella as well, because Florida State, they need some of these younger offensive linemen, like you said, Austin, to kind of be waiting in the wings just in case.
And I didn't even mention guys like Bryson Estes and Lucas Simmons, who obviously Estes has been here longer and Simmons is a redshirt freshman. But we've got to start seeing these guys take that next step.
Yeah, because this rim's going to get hit in 2025 quite a bit, and you got to see that development be had. And Jalen Early, shout out to him, man. Someone that got coached very hard by Coach Atkins and continues to make strides there. But I'd like to see Julian Armella take that step, because he was someone that was given fits in the early part of his time at FSU with Jared Verse when he first arrived, and showed a lot of signs there. But I think just him getting more playing time will be big, but it's hard to do kind of whenever you've got so much experience coming back. But I think this team, Coach Atkins, there's a lot of high thoughts on some of these youngsters coming in, and getting them developed into that year 2, year 3 is going to be big for 2025. It won't be so instrumental for this next season, but if things were to happen, though, you'd like to see these guys be able to come in and perform like we've seen in the years past with some of these guys that have gone down and guys have stepped up to come in. Because right now it's kind of like Darius Washington. He's the one that's coming in and filling the holes for whatever leak is happening in the game. But you'd like to have a solidified guy that is just stuck to that one position.
I will say one addition that I am excited about. I mean, obviously you have TJ Ferguson coming in from Alabama, and he's one that is still trying to live up to that potential. But I think maybe a guy who's getting overlooked a little bit is Richie Leonard, coming in from Florida, a solid starter for the Gators last season, actually played the most snaps of anyone on Florida's roster. And he reminds me a little bit of Dimitri Emmanuel, sawed off a little bit, but still very stout in there in the middle. And he's also someone, we heard him talking during his press conference a couple weeks ago, but he's cross-training a little bit, working at those guard spots, also working at center. So to have another veteran and someone who's played a lot of football during his career to add along with the guys that Florida State has coming back up front, I think that can only be a positive.
It's a theme for Coach Atkins, find hybrids, guys that can mix around and go fill in spots if need be or when it needs to be. We saw rotations all throughout this last year, and some people might have been a fan of it, might have not been a fan of it, but it seemed like they were able to build chemistry out of that, which was extremely impressive. But I'm still on the thought process of I want to find my best 5 out there and try to stick to that for the most as possible. Yes, if health things happen, injuries happen, that's fine, but switching up all around, I think is kind of tough at times. We saw that it worked, but not the best, definitely in the run game and such. It kind of was not it wasn't the most fluid in my opinion. I'd like to see this kind of be more of a solidified group going into 2024 season. That's a wrap, gentlemen. That's a wrap for the offensive preview, unless y'all have anything more that you would like to mention. Nothing really else changes here. There's a lot of things too for this offense that I think will be predicated on what DJU brings. Jordan Travis is gone. He's out of the system now. He was an absolute playmaker for Florida State. How do you replace that? How do you replace Trey Benson? What are you going to do in the tight end room, which we're kind of concerned about going into spring camp? Those are kind of the biggest, topics and question marks I'm having going into this spring camp. But nonetheless, is there talent there? Absolutely. And, we saw this team put up a ton of points this last season. It's just going to come down to, what they do there with DJU and how he fits this scheme. And I'm really interested to see what Mike Norvell is building behind him.
It's going to be a transition. And, I think coming into spring camp, the defense is probably going to be the story early on, just as Florida State tries to figure out this offense and all of the moving pieces at different positions. But I mean, man, I think that there's a ton of talent on this roster, and we've seen for the last couple of years now how Mike Norvell is able to get the most out of his offense, no matter what pieces he has in front of him. I think the physical skills that DJU is bringing, if Florida State can maximize his potential and really help him live up to that ceiling, the sky is the limit once again for this Florida State offense. And yeah, seeing how it unfolds during the spring over the next couple of weeks is going to be absolutely crucial as this team prepares for the summer and, eventually traveling over to Ireland in August.
I think both sides of the ball have moving pieces. I know we'll talk about defense next time we're on here. The defense probably has more youth that needs to get caught up to speed, while the offense has the experience, but they just have to gel together. A whole bunch of starts elsewhere, but they haven't been at Florida State doing it. I wouldn't be surprised if the spring's a little rusty as they get used to each other, and then it starts to ramp up towards the end of spring into summer. But like we mentioned, this is going to be a really exciting offense. I'm really excited to see what some of these guys do. I'm really looking forward to seeing Cam Davis just run through people, because I'm assuming that's going to happen a few times.
Him and Roydell.
Him and Roydell. I'm excited to see that happen. It's been a while since they've had a true bruising running back like that, and I'm excited for this whole offense in general. Yeah,
it's going to be fun. I'm jealous there of you, Delo. Enjoy the spring break, but it's back to practices, and we'll see. We'll have our episode. We won't be live next week, taking a break, and then we're back while we preview the defense, and then we'll also be talking first observations from the first day at camp for Florida State. So
we can
it's
also
a loaded podcast.
We can also talk, I mean, if it's still relevant by that point, but tour of duty. Got to be out there tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., same time as the players. So that's going to be really, really fun to go through the media's own personal tour of duty. And then before,
Oh my God, yeah,
before
you
the first,
sitting there with your hands in your pants, just tweeting away.
if they let me, but before that first day of spring practice, also we're going to be having availability of Mike Norvell and also getting a chance to speak to all the assistant coaches. So yeah, the next time we hop on here after Logan's cruise, we'll definitely have a lot to talk about.
I'll be enjoying that. No phones. Don't text me. Don't call me. Phones off. Won't hear from me for 6 days. Nothing.
I'll figure out a way to get to you. I'll send a damn pigeon if I have to.
No. Not happening. Not happening. But yeah, appreciate everybody hanging on here. I think this is our almost close to our all-time high. Over 800 people on here listening and hanging out with us this evening. But we do this every Wednesday at 7 p.m. A lot of y'all are on YouTube. A lot of y'all are also on our Twitter. But we do it at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We're almost everywhere at this point, but you can also listen to this. We upload this to our podcast listeners as well. I edit it. I put it out for everybody to listen to right afterwards. So if you want to listen to these episodes moving forward in your car, going, getting some workouts in, yada, 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 you can subscribe there on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon. I think we're on Amazon Podcasts now. So tons of content coming your way. And like Dustin said, we'll have interviews coming up from position coaches along with Mike Norvell. That will all be on our YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to that. The guys will do a great job of getting content out there for you guys. So loaded podcast tonight. Shout out to Kalen DeLoach, man. Phenomenal interview from him as we expected. Shout out to the DeLoach family as a whole. Thank you, Kalen. And we've got a loaded podcast when we jump back on here previewing the 2024 spring defense and talking some first observations from Florida State's first day of spring camp. Everybody have a great rest of y'all's week. Have a great spring break. Everybody be safe. And we'll talk to you guys in 2 weeks at 7 p.m. Peace.